take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping Baka not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.
All right, we're recording. It's episode number 46, and I have with me a very special guest who hasn't been on since episode 17. So we're talking almost 30 episodes here. It was my biggest episode ever. It's Rayray Sugarbutt. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing about as good as can be expected given the state of the world. So
Yeah,
not bad.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
It's very exhausting. And I'm not even really like going through much right now myself. It's way harder for people that aren't really in a good situation right now. So
you're constantly hearing the stories, right? And that, and that's not to say like, woe is me, I have to hear the stories or anything like that. But it is just exhausting because it never ends, It's hard to keep yourself in a positive state of mind when there is so much negativity around us, right? But that being said, I just want to thank you for coming on the show again. The first episode you did had an excellent response. Over 2,000 views, which is like skyrocketed above anything else I've done. So you really are a superstar, and 2,000 views is probably nothing for you, So how have things been going on the professional front? Have you been consistently continuing to do your thing?
Yeah, I've just been trying to put stuff out on time. It actually got pretty hectic towards the end of last year because so when I came on here last time, what month was it? Was it like July?
I was trying to think. It was about June, July, I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so after that, at the time that we had that interview, my dad was in the hospital. And since then, my dad's passed away, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was in August, so I've had a minute to like get myself back in order. But when that happened in August, I just like took a little break because obviously you can't keep working when you're dealing with that. You need time to like recover.
You got to be in the right mental state. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't like bring myself to do it at the time, but the time it took to get like back on schedule put me behind by like 2 weeks. And I had this whole theme thing planned for like a quarantine video, right? And that went through 5 or 6 different evolutions. Like it started out being just, I'm gonna do one thing in this room, there's going to be a thing in the shower, there's going to be something in the car or something like that. And it was just supposed to be like boom, 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 3 scenes back to back, right? And then I tried to change it to like involve friends over Zoom to make it more quarantine, but that fell through. And then I wanted to do other stuff with it. And eventually it just like spiraled out of control until it was like October and I hadn't finished anything. Right? Like it got really out of hand. And then in October, because I like being, like the Halloween loving goth bitch that I am, I wanted to make a Halloween thing. And I thought, let's make like 3 or 4 little things. That'll be easy. Just put on one costume, take a couple pictures in it, put it out. Easy. Bam, done. Didn't work out like that. I ended up making the longest fucking movie I've ever made because each costume ended up being up like 20 minutes of footage. The movie in the end was like literally 69 minutes.
Oh, that's perfect.
Literally, right? And like feature length film. But regardless, finally put something out in October. But then I had the other project to finish, which took up all of November. And then by the end of November, it changed to being No Nut November themed. And that came out on December 1st. And I finally like got that behind me. But then December, I needed to finish the video for December. So just the whole fucking month, I've got like 3 months of work that I haven't uploaded yet. Cause I'm supposed to I have like 3 different things, right? Mm-hmm. So on many vids, I put up the full length movies that have plots and like editing and shit like that.
Right.
On my OnlyFans, I upload all of like the raw footage from the movies, like
Okay.
without edits, so people can just like watch it like a casual movie. And
Right.
on Subscribestar, I upload all the picture sets. Subscribestar was like 3 months behind. And so by the time I finally put out fucking everything by the end of December, I had a literal month's worth of work to do. So I just did not post anything for most of January just to get caught up, but we're finally caught up and I'm putting shit out and everything's like back to normal and humming along good. So it's all good.
Yeah.
And the No Nut November themed video won second best-selling video on many vids for December.
Oh,
So I'm really proud of that. It worked
that's
out in the end.
huge. Well,
Oh
I was
yeah,
going to ask you. Well, first, I want to talk about the Halloween one and then the no nut one because both
go
of
for
those
it.
are pretty fascinating. So doing it ending up being a 69-minute feature length film. How different was that? Like, how close to that had you come previously? Like, as far you said, you've done some other full length stuff.
Yeah. I try to put out one full-length movie per month, but schedules and COVID fucks shit up, but I try, and generally they reach about 40 minutes to 50 minutes, right? So like
Okay.
a good full-length movie, like
Yeah.
a movie-length movie. But this was like much longer than even that. It's still the longest thing I've ever put out.
And I
One of
imagine
only two things that was over an hour actually. But yeah.
yeah, so I was gonna ask, like, the response must have been pretty interesting then. But if your usual stuff was 40 to 50, then it was probably just a pleasant surprise to get those extra 20, 30 minutes in there, right?
Oh, a little bit. What I actually did was, because each segment was in a different costume and had like a different focus. I broke it up into three like individual videos that you could buy individually if you only cared about what I was doing in one of them, and then I combined all three of them into the full length one. So you could just get them all at once for cheaper than buying like each one individually or whatever if you wanted to see all three of them. And I called it a Rock Hard Horror Picture Show.
That's brilliant, yeah. Especially the fact that it was like multiple things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, no, that obviously must have done pretty well. And then Halloween presents itself with the costume opportunities, especially with the Rocky Horror Picture Show theme.
Well, it wasn't Rocky Horror themed. I didn't have the time for that. I just went to like Party City and picked up a couple costumes that I liked. There was originally going to be a fourth one that was supposed to be a nun, because the costumes were a jack-o'-lantern, a vampire, what was that? A devil, and a nun. But it ended up getting so stressful, literally filming a whole thing each week, which I've never really done before. It's always been like I take a month to just take my time with a set and put out something nice and like get a good amount of pictures and get the footage that I want. But this, like, the release schedule for this was really tight because I started it second week of October, and that's got to come out by Halloween. And it was just every weekend, just make something, film. And I only actually managed to film the vampire one in one take, so it was more than one take. But I did manage to get it out, I think, November 1st, so close enough. And it did sell pretty well. People liked it. I was happy about that because it was a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a lot of work.
I hate costume changes. It's the worst thing in the world. I just want something easy to put on, but it's never something easy to put on. It always takes like an hour to suit up for any of these things.
Yeah, and then a Halloween one where you're doing three different segments. Obviously, there's a lot of cost. And you, when I spoke to you last, you pretty much were strictly one woman show. Is that still how you're doing it, even with these feature lengths, or are you having other characters in there?
Well, I mean, technically there's other characters, but they're all played by me.
Right,
Which
there you
is
go.
because there's no one I've been able to collaborate with. Like for the No Nut November one, I wanted to add a segment at the end, right, where I called up a friend, and then we did stuff together, and I was going to cut it back and forth between the different, like I was going to get them to film it and then film me, and then I would play their footage on the TV, so it looked like we were actually in a Zoom call. That didn't play out. We didn't do it. So it was still just me for the whole thing. But there are other ones where I actually like, well, I'm not actually doing anything to myself. Like I'm not doing like an Eddie Murphy style, like Big Mama's house thing where
Like the
I'm and like,
camera edit it back and forth.
yeah, I wanted to do that with the Halloween
That
one,
would
but
be
then I ran out of
hilarious.
time. I would
Yeah,
have loved to, but I didn't have time.
little layer
But
of comedy in there.
oh, I always try to have comedy in it. Like
That's
pretty
good.
much every single one of them opens with some kind of joke, I feel like like I said, the one that didn't get featured in the Halloween one ended up being what was December's whole like theme and video. It was a nun themed one, right?
Hmm.
And basically I started off the movie dressed as a nun, and I'm like praying, and you can like hear my inner thoughts, and I'm just thinking something like, I forget what I said, but it was like, I'm such a devout sister. Um, I feel so fortunate to love God and not be distracted by huge boners. And then I look down and I have a boner and I go, holy shit!
That's funny.
And that's not even actually the end of the. I actually posted one of the skits from that movie to Twitter, I think. And I literally, after like the intro scene, I get down on my knees and start praying to like a cross that I set up on the back of the bed thing here. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do? How do I stop this? And literally I did like a voiceover for like coming from the cross, and I just went, go fuck yourself. I
Yeah,
have
God
fun
has
with
a
it.
sense of humor. Yeah.
I mean, it comes back in at the end of the movie. Literally, after everything's done, it goes back. It cuts back to the cross, and he's just like, "I told you it would be hot." And I just like chuck a dildo at the cross and knock it off the shelf.
There you go. Yeah, it's just some underlying themes in there as well. So speaking of themes, the No Nut November. How do you do a No Nut November porn? I'm imagining like a meta thing where the viewer is like also doing a no nut thing until the end of the video, where the
Nah,
viewer
nah.
finally is
Okay,
allowed to nut.
okay. So let me break this down because this thing got fucking complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I did was, um, back in back in June, I think. I flew with my dad back to Belgium, right, to get him treatment for cancer. Kind of heavy, but bear with me. Bear with
Yeah,
me.
that took a turn. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You didn't expect that, did you?
No. Yeah.
But so on the flight, I'm taking like I got my phone out. I'm taking video of like all these deserted airports and shit. I'm like, it's so empty. Where is everybody? And then I got back and I was like, I should find a way to work this into a video because no one else really is going to have like authentic footage of airports during COVID.
Right.
So I used that, and then I cut from that to a little like brief exchange between me and a border guard, right? And the border guard says like, "Welcome back. Okay, you got to self isolate for 14 days." And I go, "14 days? What the fuck?" And then basically, I'm trapped in my room in the middle of November, and the last day of the quarantine is November like 30th or whatever the last day of November is. And the intro is literally just like overhead camera. I'd like tape my phone to my ceiling so you can like see me laid out on the bed, and it just cycles through the days. And I'm wearing different stuff on each day to like make it look like the time is passing. And I also filmed it over the course of one whole day, right? So you actually see like the sun slowly set over it until the last day of it. It's nighttime, right? And then I see like, oh, quarantine's finally over. Oh shit, it's December 1st. Finally, I can actually like do something because I haven't been able to go out and sleep with anyone. But I don't bother to like go out. I just, get down to it. And the whole that video is almost an hour long too, and it's pretty much just me using a bunch of different like penetratable toys like fleshlights and stuff, and a weird, it looks like a torso. I would pull it out and show it to you, but I think that would get this demonetized on YouTube. But it's literally like a torso with like a butt and a vag and boobs. Apparently you're supposed to fuck the boobs. I never tried that, but either way, people wanted to see that, so it sold really well. But the whole underlying premise of the thing is I've been kept inside for so long with no opportunity to meet up with anyone and nut that I just have like 12 nuts in me,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
I filmed this thing
Backed up.
from like August till like the end of November. And that's how it's got like 12 actual real ones in there back to back to
Wow.
back that looks like it happens on one night, because I would always film it at night with like the same setup and the same lights and the same shirt and this like same hair. So it all looks like I just came like 12 times in one night
That's
because
quite
of
the
No Nut
production.
November.
Yeah. That's creative.
It was very involved, honestly. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
by like the 8th one, I was getting really pissed off because I was like, I gotta do this again. It's still not done. There's
This
like
is
4 more of these I got planned after this. It was daunting. I was glad to finally
these
put
are
it
the
behind.
things people don't think about, man.
It
They
takes a
don't think
lot of
about this
planning too,
stuff.
because like to get like the big ones that look good on camera, you can't nut every day. You gotta wait like 4 or 5 days between each one. So I was literally for like 3 months scheduling
I
these
was
things
gonna say,
out.
you must have had a few duds in there throughout.
That was the
To get
problem.
12.
Some of
Must
them
have had
didn't really look so good. So
like,
I had to like
shit.
literally one time I didn't move the camera. I just left the phone there for like 5 days. Didn't pick up my phone, didn't move it so it would look like the same camera angle. So I could just cut back to it again and make it look like it was the same moment. And it worked, but it was a pain in the ass.
It's strenuous.
A lot of work goes into these things, like probably more than people imagine. It takes a long fucking time to make these movies.
Yeah, well, and that's why people shouldn't be like, "Oh, you make movies on the internet or whatever." It's like, well, no, it's like any creative endeavor. You have to keep it fresh. You have to keep it exciting. You have to keep it interesting. Just because you have a base of fans who's willing to check out whatever you do doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to move on to the next thing if they get bored of what you're doing. We live in a day and age where there's plenty of other shit out there. You know what I mean? So, you talk about the pressures of keeping up a release schedule and keeping up a certain, level of quality. And I'm sure a lot of that pressure comes from yourself. You don't probably get a lot of critics.
Well, I mean, I used to a long time ago when I was on Tumblr, but it was different back then because people would be like, "Oh, it's the same background every time. It's the same this. It's the same that." I'm like, "Well, it's free right now.
Yeah, what the
I'm just
fuck do you want
uploading
from me?
amateur stuff that I make in my bedroom. Of course, it's the same. I'm not trying to make anything special. I'm just taking nudes or whatever." But then when I moved to ManyVids, that was when like I planned to make 2020 a year of just like traveling around America, meeting up with my friends, making collaborations with people, because that's what people have been begging to see for a really long time. But
Right.
I still haven't been able to do that. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
fuck, what am I gonna do to keep up the engagement level that I got from actually collaborating with someone at the end of 2019, right? So I was like, we just got to make it really fucking interesting. So I just have been making really over the top solo videos for like a year now.
Yeah, well, that's cool that you've been able to sort of, compensate for the loss of what you were planning to do by kind of upping the production for yourself. So, what kind of stuff, like, have you ever been surprised by something that sold really well? Like you were talking about the torso thing being like, apparently that's something people want to see. So do you get a lot of like do you respond to requests and stuff like that? Like what is your sort of back and forth with your audience, and how do you figure out what people want to see? And again, has anything really shocked you or surprised you or weirded you out?
Um, to be honest, there's not really much of a back and forth between me and my audience. I don't do requests because I do not have fucking time to do requests on top of all this shit.
Right.
So I basically just make whatever idea I have, and if they like it, they like it, and they just happen to usually like it. Um, I don't know really how to put it other than I do pay attention to what things do well.
Right.
Uh, like I'll when I make a post, right? I tend to watch it for the first 30 minutes or so and see like how the metrics are doing on it. And
Hmm.
generally if it goes above like 250 likes within like under 30 minutes, it's going to be okay. and if it lags below that, it's like kind of a dud.
Right.
And I mean, I kind of try to use that as like a guideline for what I'm making, but even then, I don't fucking know what the fuck people want, because I'll post one thing one day and then I'll post the same thing like a week later and it'll do completely differently. So you can't really tell. I would describe my strategy as just fucking spray and pray. I post something every single day, and if it works, it works. There's always like one thing a week that will do well, and that's like, so long as some of it does well, I don't really care. It, like, some of them are duds and they don't really get that much attention. Others blow the fuck up, and that's all I really need, because that gets new people to look at my stuff, because it always gets me like new followers, and that translates into more subscribers and more people buying the movies and stuff like that, and that keeps me employed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes perfect sense. With that, does it ever like you ever did something like super low effort and have it do better than something that you put a lot of time and energy into?
Nope.
And did that ever bother you?
Oh yeah, I'm still salty about that.
Yeah, because it
uh,
seems like that you're in a line of work where that would happen, you know?
it does happen a lot. Like the one that I'm still not over is the cyberpunk themed one that I did back in 2018, and I put so much effort into that. I had spent like $1,000 on like the costume, and I took it to tailors to get it to work correctly. Like, I installed a zipper in like the butt and stuff, so it would, like, the shorts would unzip. And then I filmed the whole thing in one night in our garage, so it would have more of like an industrial looking background and all this shit. And it didn't really do well. That was like one of my worst months ever for like new followers and just like hits. It just did not do well, and I've never really wanted to make something as out there as that one since, just because it didn't really do that well, and like the
Yeah.
cost to set it up didn't end up. I think I broke even on that, and that was about it.
Right, right. Huh, that's interesting. Well, I would imagine that that would be something that you have to kind of just be ready to roll with, because you're putting a lot of time and energy into it, and you kind of just have to move on to the next one.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still doing this for me, because whether people like it or not, I make this stuff because I think it's cool, and I like playing dress up. I like to put on a cool outfit and look cool in it. Like the porn aspect of it is really secondary. I don't give as much of a shit about that. It does. I do want it to look good and be like exciting, right? But like at the end of the day, I spend a lot more time just like looking at myself in the costumes and being like, I look fucking cool as hell there, right? So what I really think I do is, especially with that cyberpunk one, for example, I wasn't going anywhere. Like, I didn't get to travel at all, really. I was cooped up and I was not really doing anything. So I was like, all right, if we're not going to go anywhere, let's pretend we're going somewhere. Let's like pretend. Let's set up a whole set that looks like a different place, and you know, feel like I'm in a different world and pretend to be someone else. And that's really what I get out of doing these. Like, the fact that people pay for them is just kind of a nice bonus. I really do it more just to, I don't know, live out ideas I have, which is kind of how these things go. The movies and the photo sets are not done until I feel happy with them, to the extent that I feel like I've actually like lived out the dream and made it look like I was in that place. If you get my drift,
Right.
like especially with, like, say the snake themed one, where I put on a snakeskin outfit and I decorated the room with big stuffed snakes, and I had like gold snake pillows and shit. I wanted to look like this like ultra glitzy thought that loved snakes. And I look at the pictures now and I look like I'm a fucking cool bitch at a really high end party with gold pillows everywhere. I'm like, fuck yeah, that feels like a good memory. Really, like that's all I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to make memories for myself. so I can look back on what I did and be like, yeah, that was actually a pretty good year. Like I scroll through my Instagram account and I just look at all the cool shit I made because I post like something from each thing I make, safe for work, obviously. But I look at that stuff and I'm like, I barely remember what happened last year, but looking through this, I had a good year. I did really cool shit and I'm really proud of it and I feel good about it.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's kind of the attitude I've been trying to have with my music and stuff as well. It's just like I want to do what I really want to do, rather than trying to cater to something that is going to get me to a particular place or whatever. It's like at this point, I just need to. It's my form of self expression, you know. If I was doing it for financial reasons or for any sort of fame reason or whatever like that, I would have quit a long time ago, so come to terms with the fact that it's like, yeah, I love looking back on like a catalog of stuff I've done. And what you're doing is like an extremely potent form of self-expression, because there's so many layers of you and your imagination in there, from the way it's shot, to the way that the set is designed, to the way that you're dressed, to what you're doing, to the overall story, the arc. It really is amazing, and I'm glad that you have done so well. But at the same time, it's like an underrated art form in a way, because even though you're able to sort of have some level of success, I don't think people are really generally aware of like how much of yourself you're putting into this work. And you're also very chill and nonchalant about it, which thank you for being such a humble person. But it really is amazing that you're willing to put yourself out there in such a potent way. And it's a cool form of art.
Well, I mean, I was actually talking with a friend about this a few nights ago, really, and ultimately, it's funny that you say like people not recognizing like how great the work is, or whatever, like how much work goes into the final product, and not really appreciating that, because I don't really ever think of it like that. The way I put it to my friend was, I'm a really big narcissist, obviously, uh, and I think I'm fucking great. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I think highly of myself, but the problem I always had as a kid was like I looked kind of fucking dumpy. I had like weird facial hair and shit. I had a weird voice or whatever that didn't match what I thought I should sound like. Like every time I heard my voice, I was like, that doesn't sound right at all. So basically, I feel like what I've been doing just over the course of the past like 5 years even has been trying to make people see what I see when I look at myself. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a person that I see in me, and I have to communicate to other people that I have to make them like see me dressed up in this really cool costume that makes me feel like badass as fuck and confident and strong, and I have to show people like, oh, she's actually like that. Like she's not just like this weird loner that stands alone or whatever at the back of the class, doesn't really talk. She's like, there's this whole person inside of her that I can see now. Like the thing that motivates me to make this shit is that I feel like I have to get people to see what I see, which is the same thing with when I do like when I would make music videos for myself, or when I would do edits of songs and shit to like show people like, oh, this would be a lot better if the song went like this, and then I would cut it together in Audacity and then play it to them, and they'd be like, oh shit, that's fire. And it's the same thing every time. I have to make people experience the stuff that I'm experiencing in my head when I get these ideas. Because I have these fucking ideas in my head that make me feel like I get chills when I think about this shit. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool. But it's just an idea in my head until like I have a way to show it to someone. And then when I show it to them, they actually experience it the way I do, and then they actually, they also think it's cool because it's fucking cool. But there's no way to show them that it's cool until I bring it to life. And that's why I make anything. I have to show people this cool fucking thing that I thought of.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I really feel that and relate to that. And I think a lot of creatives relate to that, particularly people in the sort of narcissistic arts, like being a rapper or a comedian or an a solo adult film star for the for the sake of narrowing it down even further. It's like you know that what you've got going on has value to it, and you know you're living in a world where unless you can bring that to reality, nobody else is going to see that. It's not going to be currency for anything. Like, it's not going to have any value to anybody else unless you can somehow make it reality. This is a reason why, like, Kanye West, one of my major inspirations in life, is just because he's an ultimate beacon of like, listen, I've got these fucking ideas. You all may not see it, but I know that I have the whole fashion line in my fucking head that's going to be on people. I have these shoes in my head that are going to be on people's feet, and they're going to sell out. Everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go produce some music, god damn it. And I think that a lot of people get put off by narcissistic behavior because a lot of it is negative, especially in relationships. It can lead to a lot of toxic stuff. But I believe that paired with creativity, it's validated by what's in there and what comes out. You know what I mean? And that's why some of these eccentric people like a Kanye can get away with so much shit, because, like, yeah, this person's like really full of themselves and an egomaniac, whatever. And it's like, but you would be too if you had all this shit floating around in your head and you were actually able to translate it to reality, and then millions of people enjoyed it or whatever, right? So I think that not all art necessarily, but a lot of great art is that pursuit of um, trying to translate your own highest potential and what you believe your own highest potential is, and trying to bring that into reality. Otherwise, all the world's going to see is what's on the outside, but you need to bring what's on the inside to the outside.
I mean,
And
that's honestly how it works with me and like fashion stuff, right? Because
mhm,
with me, when I see a really cool piece of clothing, that gets something going in my head, and I start imagining the things I want to do while I'm wearing that, and like I won't feel right until I've like lived out that experience that I imagined doing in my head wearing that getup. And that
right,
that like motivates me to like get out in the world and do shit, like travel somewhere and take like, even just like, I see a cool shirt and then in my head I'm like, it would look really fucking cool if I took a picture of myself standing in front of like the Tokyo Tower wearing this shirt. And that
right,
ultimately motivates you to like fly to Japan and experience all this other cool shit that isn't related to the clothes, but the clothes were what kicked off like that thing in your head that made you want to get out and live your life and do cool shit. Like, I actually did something this week, right? So uh like a week ago, I bought a jacket from this Indonesian techwear designer called Machine 56, right? And I thought it looked really cool to begin with. But what really got me to buy it was I was like, that would look really fucking cool as like a crop top, but it was like a full length jacket, right? So I made these mock-ups in Photoshop. I pinned the thing until it fit the way that I wanted. And then I took it to the tailor and I explained everything that I needed done to it. Like, it was really complicated, but it fucking worked.
fire.
I got this cool ass fucking cropped tech wear jacket. It fits perfectly. It's got all this cool shit on
Yeah,
the
that is
arms
hard
and
as fuck.
shit.
I literally want that.
Well, you can't get it because I bought the last size small and it's a custom fitted thing. And it fits fucking great and I feel real good about it.
Yeah.
But this is just another example of like what I'm talking about, it's the fucking hood is stuck. Yeah, whatever. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, you get an idea and you just want to make it real, and that was why I got this thing. I was like, that would look really fucking cool if I made it into this like Akira looking thing And
Yeah,
now I have it, and I feel fucking awesome wearing it because cool clothes make you feel cool.
they sure fucking do. Yeah, they bring out, like I said, they bring out your higher self, your full potential, what you imagine for yourself, and it's like anybody could be anything, and it's just a matter of what you're like how wide you've set your lens for the capabilities of what you can be and what you can achieve and the experiences that you can have. So many people have, and it's not through any fault of their own necessarily. It could be through upbringing, through different traumatic things that have happened, but they've locked themselves into one role, to one look, to one feel, to one, this is what my life is, and if I exit this little box, I'm going to be scared to death. You know what I mean? And I really try to bring people into my life who really try to go outside that box. Be like, no, I can imagine myself in all these different, in an infinite number of scenarios, experiences, photos, videos. You know what I mean? And I need to make as much of that happen as possible while I'm here.
I mean, that's why I bought this fucking thing I'm wearing right now. I got this fucking boiler room looking jumpsuit on, and I was like, I can't get enough of this cyberpunk shit. I want to dress like I'm from the future.
It's a wave. Yeah. It's like a past future clash.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like, I've just been so on this kick lately where I've just been looking for weird, futuristic looking clothes because now all the regular clothes just feel fucking boring to me, and I gotta branch out. This was when I really like figured that I was out of my slump, right? Because for all of January, I'm not making anything. I'm just slogging through all this backlog work and feeling like shit and being depressed and all that. And then when it's all behind me, I start getting this like itch, and I'm like, I want to reinvent myself again. And I kind of did, and it's kind of lit. It looks really fucking good. I'm really
Yeah.
pleased
Killing
with
it. Killing it. Yeah. Yeah. I love the 4 braids too.
it. There's 6, and
Oh, there's
there's 3 on
6.
each side.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
seeing 2 on each side. That's even better.
Yeah, I just kind of like let them rest,
Six
however the hell
tails.
they fall. It's easier than like letting my hair just like do its own thing because it looks good immediately after washing, but it just frizzes the fuck out and flies everywhere. So I most of the time I wear it in these ropes, which keeps it manageable and prevents my head from overheating because I have very big fluffy hair
Well,
when it's not tightly braided.
it suits the cyberpunk aesthetic though, It's like,
Yeah, it looks kind of like dreads.
yeah, it's kind of futuristic, yeah. Um Man, is Marilyn Manson a piece of shit? What's going on with Marilyn Manson? I cuz
I don't
I
know because I
my heart
haven't.
my heart is broken. I just heard little tidbits, and I've been loving Marilyn Manson since I was a kid and saw Much Music, all the freaky shit he used to do on there, and genuinely been a fan of his music for a while, and also thought he was a super cool human being. You hear the guy talk, and he's very introspective and intelligent and thoughtful. And then within the last couple of weeks, I've heard all this fucking horrifying shit. And at first I was like, well, of course they're gonna say that about him. They always say shit like that about him. It's always been the same story, right? But then I read a little bit more, and I'm like, fuck,
I
not
mean,
another one.
well, I'm also a fan of Marilyn Manson. I have been for since I was a kid as well. I really loved when I was a kid. I liked Antichrist Superstar the most, but I've actually like as I've matured now, I like Mechanical Animals the most because that's just like Marilyn Manson doing like a love letter to David Bowie, and it's really fucking cool. It's got like awesome songs like Rock is Dead and I Don't Like the Drugs, but the Drugs Like Me, which is like the most Bowie thing ever. It's just fuck
Yeah.
shit. But and his more recent one, The Pale Emperor, was awesome because he's just on that weird like outlaw rock thing, and it's good. But music aside, that stuff doesn't actually surprise me because I'm a fan of a podcast called And Introducing, which is they just talk about the history of bands and musicians using stuff written about them, like autobiographies and stuff like that. And from the one they did on Marilyn Manson, I knew that he and his bandmates were always kind of like kind of shitty. Like there's one particular story that they bring up about a deaf groupie who comes backstage and they like gangbang the deaf groupie, and she like it seems like she was into it and stuff like that, but also she's deaf. And at one point they say, I'm like, one of the band members literally said like, I'm gonna come in your useless ear canal, which obviously she didn't hear, but everyone else in the room heard, and everyone just kind of looked around like, oh, we're
I was
pieces of
just like,
shit, aren't we?
yeah, even if I was, hypothetically speaking, in some universe, if I was into it and gangbanging a deaf girl with a bunch of my homies, and somebody said that, my hypothetical boner would be gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you continue at that point? Be like, dude, what the fuck, man? You know?
I mean, that's a problem I have in real life, not that specifically, but
I was gonna say what?
I mean more like, I don't know, I make all this weird shit, right? But I think that makes people think I'm weirder than I am. And my problem is that I'm actually way more fucking vanilla than most people probably assume. So like I'm just trying to find people to do stuff with in my like spare time as like my personal life. And every fucking person that I swear that I click with, I'm like, oh, this person's really cool. They're on the same wavelength, and they want me to choke them. I'm like, I don't like choking people. I don't want you to dress up in a gimp suit and be human furniture. But then that's their thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, this doesn't really do anything for me. But if you like it, okay. But it's hard to. I can't really do it.
I guess it, you know, for all the like, it must kind of make people see you in a certain way when you're meeting them for the first time through this kind of online personality, right? Like they're probably going to assume.
Well, I've never met anyone. I've never like met a fan per se. I only really hook up with friends because I like sleeping with my friends because I feel close to them, and that's honestly who I really tend to collaborate with as well, as just friends. And they're like, you want to hang out and then film something? Well, yeah, that sounds cool. But a lot of the time, like not with those people specifically, but like even when I was just like, before I did any of this and I was just trying to make like personal ads and shit, I would kind of hit it off with someone and I would think it's going in a good way, and then it's like, oh, I want you to punch me in the stomach, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's weird.
Can't we just hang out?
Why you gotta make it like that? Why do you want me to whip you? I don't want to whip anybody.
Oh yeah, no, you know, I guess to some extent it's to be expected, though, I suppose.
I mean, 50 Shades of Grey was super popular. I don't know what the fuck that was about, but apparently people like weird shit. So
yeah, they really do. They really do.
Not to kink shame or anything. Like if you like it, you like it.
And that's the thing. That's what I mean. Is kind of, you wouldn't think that somebody would expect you to be vanilla, you know, in their defense.
I mean, I say vanilla, but it's more just like, I have weird fetishes, but I don't have your weird fetishes.
Yeah, there's levels.
It's like I don't really want to put you in a latex horse costume and ride you around like a pony. I just wanted to put my hand in your butt. That's about it, really. We don't have to do this whole animal roleplay thing. But
yeah, you know, I'm not into any of that stuff, but I love knowing that people are, because like, who are these people, right? They're just regular people.
They're normal people. That's the thing.
That's what I love about it, because when you hear stories like that, it just makes you think about the people you see like shopping and walking down the street. You know, I worked in retail for so many years. My whole life was just casual interactions with people, right? So you hear stories like that and it's like, man, there really are people into everything, right? Some of the freaky shit on the internet, some of the freakiest shit has some of the most views, right? People are into it, you know, and it's not fucking sketch bags living in caves. It's regular ass people.
I mean, that is genuinely why I tell people to stop treating your like sexuality as a separate piece of you. That was the key thing that got me started doing what I do. Like even on Tumblr, right? I was really frustrated with how I had to keep this part of me that is part of being a human being, because everybody does it.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about it. And if you do talk about it, you got to make like an after dark account or like a not safe for work account, and
Yeah.
you don't commingle it with like stuff about your life. You don't talk about like what you ate that day or something that you did, or what things you're interested in or what your hobbies are. And I wanted to just have a place where I could post like, oh, I'm playing this video game today. It feels really cool. I like this game. Or, oh, I cooked this really nice meal today. Look at these pictures of food that I did. I really like cooking. And then another day you post some nudes or whatever, and it's just like an actual full picture of me as a human being, where I don't have to pretend that I don't have sexuality or whatever. And I guess to some people it makes them feel uncomfortable, like it's getting forced on you to see someone else's sexuality. But I mean, it's not like I'm out in the street walking around with a shirt that says I like big dildos or something. Like, I just want people to be able to talk about it and treat it as a normal thing to talk about, so everyone stops thinking they're weird, because it turns out everybody has some weird thing that they like, and no one seems to think they're normal because no one talks to each other about it.
100%. And the other side of it is that the compartmentalization of that part of us is really mentally unhealthy, and it's mentally unhealthy for a lot of people. All these people walking around uptight and snapping at the clerk and the waitress and stuff is like, a lot of these people are sexually repressed or compartmentalized in one way or another, because, our entire society just like puts this in a box and shoves it over there until it's time for it in private when nobody's looking, right? And it's like, but we all have this, and that extends even to non-sexual things. Fuck it. I mean, we all have shit we're into that's like weird or like something nerdy or something whatever. And it's like, we all have shit that we just like protect and hide because somebody's going to have some fucking opinion about it, or it might make somebody else uncomfortable or make them feel like they've got a lesser thing, or like, it's just so ridiculous. We should all just be able to express and also be aware of, being courteous of others at the same time.
Obviously, yeah, I was gonna say like within reason, because there's
For
some
sure.
shit that people want to express. It's like, you don't need to fucking say that, because one, you're wrong.
Exactly.
And two, that's really fucking stupid.
Empathy needs to be there. Empathy needs to be there. First and
Exactly,
foremost.
exactly. You should be able to express who you are and the stuff you believe in, but at the same time, sometimes you believe in shit that's just not true. Like, I'm sorry, there are people that go around spouting dumb shit about, like, for example, in the UK right now, they're trying to limit access to puberty blockers to trans kids, because they're like, oh, this is you're giving hormones to children. And it's like, one, you can't get hormones until you're 16 or 18 in some places, usually 18. So no one's given hormones to children because you can't get them. And more importantly, puberty blockers are for people that haven't finished puberty. And all it does is pause your puberty. So if you decide that, hey, I'd actually like to go through puberty and not transition, you can just stop taking them and nothing bad happens. You just go through puberty like normal. But if you take them, you got some time to figure yourself out and decide, and maybe you just wait until you're 16 or 18, and then you get your hormones and you transition, and you literally go through puberty completely, like, as your chosen gender. Like, you will have the luxury of, like, your skeleton grows the way that it should for your gender, or your voice develops the way that it should for the gender that you are. But because they know absolutely nothing about how this stuff works, they think they're like giving kids pills that like renders them infertile or something. And that's really fucking bad, because if these kids don't get access to puberty blockers, they're going to go through puberty, and it's going to be extremely fucking distressful to them. Because when you're trans and your body starts having physical changes that don't align with the gender that your brain tells you that you are, you start really fucking panicking, because your brain does not like that. But as a result, you have all of these people walking around the UK, for example, like J.K. Rowling, who insists that there's no such thing as being trans, or that trying to be inclusive of trans people is like limiting her free speech or some dumb shit like that. And it's like, I don't really think you can express that opinion, I guess, but everyone has the right to fucking dogpile you for that because it's just not factually correct. It's not true. But they think they don't really care because they don't do their research, or they're literally just so bigoted that they don't care about the research. Like this one guy I saw where my friend literally, who is a scientist, right? And he tried to explain that like biological sex is actually not as simple as we think, because there are like experiments they've done with rats, for example, where like, okay, we need to sort these rats by their sex and then do whatever the experiment is, right? And in the course of that, they find that, oh fuck, the chromosome pairs are not all that really affects this. Their sex is actually much more complicated and there's tons of variations. So there's not really two cleanly divided camps. It's actually quite complicated. But my friend tried to explain this to this guy in like a very concise paragraph. It wasn't a lot to read. And the guy's reply was just, I'm not fucking reading that. And it's like, you could have just said you wanted to be angry.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? Yeah, and I think a lot of the misconception is that, like you said in the beginning, a lot of people think that all of this stuff is permanent and that somebody's going to make a decision at 12, 13 that they're going to be stuck with for the rest of their life. And
well, that's the thing, though, because think about it this way. If you don't get the puberty blockers and you are trans, then you are stuck with something that you don't want for the rest of your life.
And you didn't make the decision, right?
You had no say in the decision.
Yeah,
exactly. And you could have.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing that I think that, the way I like to look at it that kind of maybe bridges a gap in some people's brains, is like, there's men who are out getting dirty every day, working hard on, cars or fucking whatever the fuck. In layman's terms, I know I am more of a girl than some of these men out there, right? If I'm using old language to talk about it, right?
Well, like the social construct of it in that sense, yeah, like where there's masculine things and feminine things.
And even not just the social, but like, yeah, I guess a lot of it is social construct, but it's like, there's just an energy there where it's like, I know that there are certain circles of men where if I were to try to hang out with them, I would look like a little bitch or feel like a little bitch. You know what I mean? It's like they're clear, even though you can look at the whole thing binary just based off of the genitals. You know what I mean? There clearly is a spectrum as far as like what people are. It's not, people aren't just two things. You know what I mean? There's all different types of guys and there's all different types of girls. So even if you want to group people into two groups, within those two groups, there's a million different types of people, So it's like, so why are we still using the two groups so concretely, And I just think there's a lot of old thinking that hasn't really caught up.
Well, I have my own explanation of why that persists in society. If you want me to give you a quick rundown with a little bit,
let's go for it.
Yeah, so you talk about how there's things that men do and that women do, and that there are certain types of men that find a man doing something inappropriate or a woman doing something inappropriate. Let's say like a woman, I don't know, having a job. And the reason that persists particularly is because that's a power dynamic. And it used to be that a woman could not get a job. And when you have no job, that means that you have to be financially dependent on someone else, typically a husband.
A man. Yeah.
And yeah, so when you get married, you're completely reliant on your husband to do everything. And that means that your husband can basically do whatever he wants to you because he's literally in charge of your entire like material well-being. He has all the money, he has all the resources, he has the house probably. So you don't actually get anything.
Well, you don't have a life, essentially.
Exactly.
Your life is his life.
Exactly. You have no independence.
Yeah.
So when we had women's, like the development of women's rights around the world, and women got to start working and women got to start voting, they became financially independent, and that allows them to, go off on their own and do their own things and not be chained to someone else. And the problem with that is a lot of dudes really enjoyed having complete control over women.
Go figure.
So exactly. So when when that gets upset, they feel a certain loss of power and control, right? Now, it only really gets worse with time because you start creating things like daycares, which means the kids don't have to be at home. So the mom doesn't have to watch them. So she can go out and do other things as well. And as it goes on and on and on, you have less and less power over someone else. And to tie this all back to the bigger picture here, we have basically no control over our like the direction of our lives at the moment because none of us own where we work. Someone else, typically a boss or a business owner, tells you what you're going to do, tells you what you're going to make, and a lot of the time has complete control over whether or not you have a job. So the only control that you get in that world is whatever you can find and grab for yourself, which is what propels a lot of people to want to control women or control others or even become bosses themselves because they have no security.
Yep.
So when you're in that position of living within capitalist society where you have absolutely no say over anything really in your life other than, I don't know, shit you buy, you're just kind of reduced down to defining yourself by things you do, shit you buy and consume, and maybe how you treat certain people that you can have control over. But ultimately, like that's why we are where we are now, wherein people care so much about culture war shit, in my opinion anyway, because the fuck, what are you going to do if you want to say, like, I want to work these hours and I want to make this thing because it makes me feel fulfilled? Well, you can't do that because we're not going to pay you for it, and I want us to make this thing because I own the business. And you're basically at the whim of someone else. So at the end of the day, what I'm kind of rambling now, but to jump to a different point from this as like a springboard, this is how you get politics becoming talking about cancel culture, because what the fuck do you have other than that? You can't do anything about, you can't even be sure that you'll have a house tomorrow because what if your boss fires you? You have no fucking say. One person has control over your entire life. So all that you can really get mad about is, I don't know, if someone got fired from a TV show, because voting certainly doesn't give you any more control over your material conditions. We can't seem to vote to make anything better. So all we can really do is focus on fucking media bullshit where we get mad about things getting worse, but not about the things that are actually getting worse, like our wages not going up or shit like that.
Yeah, and all the supposed control we do have when it comes to voting, this, that, or the other, is all bought and sold by the same people who run our lives anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, that's literally, that is how it works in
Yeah,
capitalist society. A
exactly.
capitalist is a business owner, which means the business owner takes most of the profits that you generate and only gives you some of them as a worker. You aren't earning the full value of your labor. Most of it is going to your boss,
Yeah.
who gets, and because they're the boss, they get the most money. And over time, that means that there's a class of society with a shitload more money than most people. And because they have a shitload of money, they can then go to their local governments and pay them a shitload of money to get society to work the way they want.
Yeah, politicians are beholden to those people as much as the workers are beholden to those people, because there's no, you can't move, you can't budge without their say so, right?
Exactly.
What are you going to do? As soon as they cut off your income, you're done, you know? So nobody's ever held accountable to the people that fucking make everything go, you know? Like, nobody has to ever apologize to us or give some atonement to us for all the bullshit. It's always, well, let's bail out the company owners, let's bail out this, let's bail out the banks, fuck, man. Like, I don't see how anybody could still be defending that when so many people are starving to death, you know?
Well, they defend it because they've been completely fucking atomized. They have no concept of living in a Joker moment, but living in a society with other human beings. We do live in a society, and we're fucking gregarious animals. We like doing things with other people. We like taking care of each other, but we can't take care of each other because the system that we live under has decided that the only way to get as much money as humanly possible out of the way things are set up is to have us compete constantly.
Cut each other's throats. Yep.
Exactly. That is what a scab is. When workers are striking, they don't want anyone to take a job at the place they're striking at because that undermines the power of their bargaining. Because if other people take the jobs that they're striking over, then what does the boss lose by them going on strike? He can just hire more people. But if you actually teach people solidarity with their class, the working class, they see that, oh, those working people are striking. I'm not going to break the strike. I'm going to support the strike to force the business owner to meet their demands. And if we actually did that multiple times across society, we would be doing a lot better because we would be able to bargain for things like higher wages, more safety at work, better fucking vacation time and shit like that.
Yep.
But you can only get that if people don't fuck with the solidarity. If people start breaking rank, it's the same like with a protest. If you start breaking rank, they will just pick you off and start arresting you. But if you all stay huddled together, you can actually push through. But that's the only way you get anything. You have to stay there. And people don't seem to remember that part anymore.
Yeah, well, people throw money at people, that happens as well. It's like, it's just such a tough thing. It's such a tough thing, but at the same time, it should be a no-brainer,
Well, you saw it in action last year during the George Floyd protests and stuff, right? Because that was in the middle of COVID. So people didn't have jobs. A lot of them lost their jobs, literally millions of them. A lot of them were going broke because there was no stimulus money being given in America, at least.
Yep.
And what happened? People suddenly didn't have anything left to lose. Like the reason they weren't protesting like that before was, I don't know, if I go out and protest and stay out there, I'm going to miss work. And if I miss work, I might get fired. And if I get fired, I lose my health care. And then I might get sick and die. But if everyone starts becoming unemployed and everyone has no fucking money, they have nothing to lose. So suddenly you actually like, oh, we actually get shit by staying put and not budging. And then eventually they have to listen to us. But that whole concept has been like just scrubbed from people's minds. I went on a rant to I went on a rant to a friend about this, and like forgive me if I'm like going all over the place right now, but I think it's coherent. But anyway,
I'm getting it.
Yeah. So I went on a rant to my friend about how there is everything, at least in the liberal sphere of politics, at least in North America, and I suppose a lot of the Anglosphere at least, is everyone is depoliticized and they don't understand how anything really works. They just think that if you vote for something, then things will get better. Or if you just, they fetishize the idea of showing up and being seen, but they don't know how that translates into getting anything. They think that because they voted for a person, all they have to do is show up and say, we don't like this, and then the next day they can all go home and it'll change.
Yeah.
That it doesn't work that way. If you want to force these people to do what you want, you have to inconvenience them. You have to you basically have to hurt their sources of money. That's what a
That's the
strike is
only
supposed to
thing
do.
they understand. Exactly.
Exactly. When did the government shut down in 2019 or the longest shutdown in U.S. history? When did that end? When the airport workers went on strike, and then all of a sudden the flights got shut down because there was no TSA, and that really hurt their pocketbooks because they need the flights to keep going, for the economy to keep going, for them to keep making money off shit. And when that stops, suddenly they're like, oh, fuck, there's a problem. And that's how you get things to change. You have to actually put the screws to people's material like conditions, not just show up and wave around a sign with like a cute slogan on it and then go home the next day. You haven't inconvenienced anyone by doing that. If anything, they like it when you do that because it makes you think that you did something, and they can go back to not doing anything.
And then all of the people who support them can say, look at these fucking fake activists. Look at you know what I mean? Yeah. The thing that I don't like about liberals is that they never go all out. It's always like meeting halfway. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's never like a full on movement.
Well, that's the thing, is that the liberal orthodoxy is civility, is not making a ton of inconveniences for people.
Yeah, which at its heart is a good thing, right? That's the whole.
Well, it's a good thing maybe on like a superficial level, but
well, if everybody was like that, it would be great, right? But you're not going to get anything done with the way things are now because everybody's not like that.
I mean, I think that would only really work in like a literal utopian society where there's like no divisions between anyone. Then maybe you could actually get things done by just politely asking for stuff. But we don't live in that world, and more importantly, that's how you get things like petitions. Liberals, like the liberal equivalent of thoughts and prayers is signing a petition, because it doesn't do anything, but you think it did something, because it doesn't require you to inconvenience anyone. You don't stop anyone from getting somewhere. There's no disruption of traffic. There's no damage done to anyone's pocketbook. Nothing is affected in any meaningful way. No confrontation. But you sign a piece of paper, and because you think that all it takes to change things is to show the people in power how many people agree with something, you write your name down on the paper goes away, you never have to think about it again, and you feel like you did something. But ultimately, it's pretty much just the same thing as saying, I'll pray for you. What does it achieve? Nothing changes, because they don't understand a lot of the time that a lot of the petitions can't just be handed over to your government. You need to actually go through a whole process with it, and especially with digital petitions, those don't even work. We had a whole thing here when they were forgiving student loans, and we did a digital petition in Ontario to get them to forgive previous student loans, and it didn't work because when they brought it to the government, they're like, we don't accept that. We only accept physical signatures.
Yeah, this doesn't actually mean anything.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, kick some money to change.org to feel like you did something.
And a bunch of people probably still to this day believe that they did something when they signed that, you know?
How many people in the past like year shared a petition with you on change.org?
Yeah.
You know?
This is exactly where they want us, man. And you know, I think that, you know, the way I've been thinking about, like, before you and I were born into this world, there was several decades of constant anti-communist, anti-left propaganda being shoved down the throats of everybody in North America for the last 50 years, you know? And then our generation is sort of born into the results of that. And a lot of us, unfortunately, still have parents and grandparents who are spouting that same bullshit to this day. And then a lot of us believed it, and now we're fighting with each other over the same shit. But I really think that, you know, days like January 6th, the whole QAnon thing, all the bullshit that's happened to them down there is sort of their karma for all that fucking propaganda. You know what I mean?
Well,
They shove that anti-socialist shit. And now everybody, the shit that we're talking, everybody, a lot of people think is evil, you know, is like evil Russian, you know, we're spies.
Well, not even is the problem, is because this is what really ticks me off, and I have to keep myself from getting into like, I will not achieve any meaningful change by commenting on a thread on Reddit, right? But every time I go on Reddit, I see someone try to describe socialism, and it's not what socialism is. Like, they'll just, if it's a conservative person, they'll talk about censorship and how that's socialism.
Like
Which,
what?
okay, I guess all conservative governments have been doing socialism, because how much censorship have they done?
Yeah,
Like, what is
exactly. Was it a bunch
and
of socialists stomping on the "Fuck the Police" CD by NWA?
exactly. But more importantly, then you get on the other side of it, where you have liberal people that think, well, socialism is when you do taxes, and I pay some taxes, and that's socialism. We're doing socialism in Canada. And it's like, that's not it either. It's literally a simple fucking thing. It's when you own where you work, and everybody else you work with owns it too. It's a co-op. It's called a co-op. They exist right now, and it's a socialist structure. When everybody owns where they work in one workplace, that means you all get to vote on what happens at the workplace, and that gives you control over your life, because the thing that affects your life the most is where you work.
Yep.
Exactly. But that's what socialism is when people own where they work and have democratic control over their workplace, which currently rests in the hands of the owners of the business, like shareholders, because they get to vote on what the business does. They get to vote if the factory closes or not, and you lose your job because they want to move it somewhere else. They have democracy. The workers don't. And when the workers have democracy, that's socialism. It's not when the government does stuff. It's not when you pay taxes. It's certainly not when there's censorship of shit. But no one seems to know this definition, so people just start describing all of the shit they don't like as socialism. You start seeing the fucking My Pillow guy go on the news and say, cancel culture is socialism and communism. They're trying to hurt my business. And then he gets an ad spot for My Pillow immediately after. But, like, none of that shit that they say is socialism is socialism. If you ask these people to describe what socialism is, none of them can fucking tell you, because the ability to teach what that is has been completely expunged from school.
Yep.
It would actually be pretty good if we taught people things like Marxist theory, because they would then understand that you get power in a society where money equals power by just having the ability to control a business. So long as there are business owners, they will always have the most money, because they will always be able to take the profit from the labor of, like, more than one person. So if two people work and you don't work, but you take like 60% of the money they generate and then give them 40% of it, you just have 120% of the money, and that gives you a lot of power and gives them less, and that entrenches it. And the only way to reverse that is to make the workplace democratized with socialism, but no one fucking knows what that is, because you can't talk about it and
You're
you
not
can't
supposed
learn
to
it.
know. They don't want you to know.
Even in the UK, they literally banned talking about anti-capitalist shit in school.
Yeah,
Like,
and the CEOs and business owners and they're made into heroes all the time.
well,
They're the heroes.
see,
they're the risk. They're the risk
that's kind of
takers.
the problem now, actually, is that because no one knows what socialism is, they think it's when businesses do things they don't like. So you get shit like Twitter banning people from inciting violence on Twitter.
Yeah,
because it's
socialism.
because it's a private corporation, which is an explicitly capitalist structure,
Worth billions of dollars.
worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But because it's a big corporation, which is apparently, that's the only part of socialism, is that it's big. When it's a big corporation that does a thing that I don't like, that's socialism.
Oh,
Like,
some of the
that's capitalism. You don't know.
exactly. I saw some.
And that's the biggest worry that I have, is that people, like, capitalism is getting worse right now. People
they're
are making
convincing people that they're
but people are making less and less money for longer and longer hours of work, and shit is costing more and more and more because landlords drive up the price of housing so they can make profit off of people's labor. And because of that, people are really unhappy with capitalism. They don't like it, but they don't know what it is.
They think they're unhappy with socialism.
Exactly. But they're always fucking describing
Exactly.
Capitalism.
I saw a great tweet, and I'm assuming it was sarcasm. I really hope it was, but it might not have been because this is how fucked up people are. And it was something along the lines of like, we need to take the power out of these CEOs and company owners' hands and put it into the hands of the people who work there. That's the only way to end their evil socialist agendas.
Yep.
I was like,
I saw
that is so fucking funny. And I
This
even
has me screaming internally.
and I,
You're describing capitalism.
exactly. And I saw somebody on my Facebook who was like, I'm not going to say any names, and he was posting about Mark Zuckerberg, right? And he's like, oh, I love how I can't find any anti-communist or anti-socialism memes on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, the comrade Mark Zuckerberg and all this shit. And again, I had to, you're not going to change anything by getting into a fucking argument on social media. But I want to be like, dude, Mark Zuckerberg, the corporate billionaire, is a communist, is a socialist. What are you talking about? Like,
also, where the fuck is he looking? Because you can find tons of anti-communist shit on all social media.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
none of it is none of that shit is protected. There is no social media platform that is pro-communist. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm like, did he not fight against government regulations in court like multiple times? How is he a fucking communist? How is
not even that? Mark Zuckerberg admitted that Facebook works with conservative groups so that they don't censor them as much because they're worried about looking biased. Not that they censor conservative groups less because they think that if they censor them equally, they'll look biased and they'll lose people, which they actually might now because Facebook is mostly conservative. The top 10 pages on there were like what? Donald Trump, Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, PragerU, Dan Bongino again somehow. Like it was all right-wing pages.
Yep.
And somehow social media is communist, except it's literally just pimping out right-wing opinions constantly.
Yep. And then people will be like, big tech is the socialism. And it's like big tech, big anything is not. So it's the opposite. You know what I mean? It's like the propaganda is run so deep and so thick through some people's brains that it's just like, I can't imagine a way around it.
The fucking peak of propaganda brain, in my opinion, is news about North Korea, because I've seen multiple headlines now that have phrased the headline basically like this: North Korea says it has no COVID cases, but it wants a vaccine. Of course. Even if you assume that it's true that they have no cases, why would they not want a vaccine? They would still need to get vaccinated so they could open up again and participate in the economy, what little they can participate in, because right now they've shut everything. You can't travel there for tourism, which is a way they made money. They can't really trade with China properly because they've closed their borders, so they're struggling. So even if they have 0 cases, which they might, because it's already a very closed off country, but even if they have cases, they would want a vaccine. But if they had no cases, it would still make sense to want a vaccine, because you need to get one eventually to be able to participate in the rest of the world. It makes no sense to be like, they say they have no virus, but they still want to be immune to it. Weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there was another one where it was some bullshit headline that said fucking North Korea's government was instituting a ban on tinted windows because tinted windows were the color of capitalism. So already that to me that sounds like a bullshit story. But also, isn't the prevailing wisdom about North Korea that it's a shithole dirt country with nothing, but somehow they now have enough people with custom cars with tinted windows
that they need to ban
it?
Yeah.
Excuse me, what?
Tinted windows is the color of capitalism.
Like, obviously this didn't fucking happen.
That's such a great title for an article. That's like, that's
But
great.
that's the problem, is that it's the same case with socialism, really, as with North Korea, is that because you can't learn about it, everyone just accepts whatever they hear about it, and that becomes the reality. But it makes no fucking sense, because, like, this one lady on a picture Like I follow an Instagram page called DPRK360. It's a guy who goes to North Korea and takes pictures because he likes to show people what it's like there. And the picture was not particularly impressive. It was a pretty rundown looking like rural train station with some not even like kind of emaciated looking cows chilling outside the train station chewing grass. And this lady decides to comment and go, "You expect us to believe this? Everyone knows there's no food in North Korea." It's like, no, there is no food in North Korea.
You know,
the ground
there
has
are
been
humans.
salted.
Yeah.
No one there has ever eaten food.
Yeah, there are human beings there.
There's
They're,
like 30-something million people there, and they,
therefore,
being
there's
human, need to
gotta
eat
be
every
some
day.
food there, I would imagine. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
gotta be some infrastructure that's feeding people.
There's actually a pretty
They're
decent
alive.
infrastructure feeding people because we literally had the fucking like the IOC Olympic Commission visit North Korea during like the Korean Olympic Games, and even they were like, yeah, they have food. The nutritional value of the food is not super great, but no one's really starving. They have food, but no one will fucking tell you that, because the only way we hear about it is news stories from really insane South Korean conservative newspapers that just get translated and then they get spun out into shit like the Daily Mail and even the BBC, and people just take that at face value as fact, as though like all of this shit makes total sense, even though we always, if you actually pay attention to news that you hear about the country, it's like so and so was assassinated or executed, and then 2 weeks later they show up on TV alive. Like literally, one of the people they said was executed showed up at the Olympic Games. Or what happened last year? They tried to say Kim Jong-un was dead twice.
Yeah.
Remember, he was in a vegetative coma for a couple of months at the start of the year, and then somehow in the middle of the year, he was in a coma again.
Yeah.
You already tried this one. He's on TV. I can see him.
Yeah, it's always something, man. It's always something. And and it runs deep. It runs deep, and people aren't gonna it's a shame that you can't really do any proper research on it. It's just like you said.
Well, you can. There's plenty of decent sources. Like there's actually ones that are critical of North Korea that you can hear about. Like I recently listened to a book by Andrei Lankov, who studied in North Korea because he was a Soviet citizen. So he got to do an exchange student program in North Korea, and he can tell you all sorts of things about North Korea. A lot of them not particularly good, but it's still an actual first-hand source from a person who doesn't even like the place. And you can find stuff like that if you actually look, but no one actually looks because they just think it's a crazy place and they believe everything about it, even though a lot of it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, all the information that is in the mainstream or readily available is just like you said, shithole. People are starving to death, this, that, or the other. It's the same thing with Cuba. I went to Cuba and I was like, this is crazy. Even just going from the airport to the resort. Granted, not the most glamorous life in the world, but people have plots of land to live on that's bigger than any plot of land I'm ever going to live on in my life.
Most Cubans own their own home.
Yeah, and
more than I can say.
And beautiful land to go with it, So and even those like farmers, they have to give.
Even to speak to like the conditions of Cuba and how it is, a lot of that is because of the U.S. embargo on Cuba.
Exactly.
Like, how are they going to get anything if the U.S. sanctions you for trading with Cuba?
A dangerous, part of the nexus of evil, and they're a dangerous terrorist country.
And it's the same thing with North Korea. I saw it made me so fucking mad. It was literally called The Pathetic Tiny Economy of North Korea. It's like, gee, I wonder why it's that way.
And
it's not because of anything they're doing. It's because they can't trade with literally anyone.
Yeah, and I wonder if the person who wrote this has any bias, to put pathetic in their title.
Well, I mean, it might not even be biased. They might literally just see, well, this is a country that calls itself socialist, and it's actually not particularly socialist either. I can tell you right now that a lot of North Korea currently, they're trying to do some reforms, but a lot of it currently operates on like a sort of gray market model where there's actually like businesses with employees or people bribe people to get shit, because a lot of it is like collapsed from years of sanctions, so it doesn't work correctly. But it's not particularly socialist anyway. But people think that it works one way, and it does not work that way there. But you see it and you go, oh, socialist country, of course it's dirt poor. But then you look at why is it dirt poor? Because no one can trade with them. They can't buy medical equipment. They can't buy, that's why they have such outdated medical infrastructure. They can't trade with anyone. They can't buy any new hospital equipment. It's like, gee, I wonder why it's so bad there. They can't buy an MRI machine.
Yeah. Yeah. They've been ousted, right?
Well, I mean, this just makes me so mad because it's literally just hurting innocent people. Because the governments of those places, like, I'm not going to say like the North Korean government rocks. They're pretty bad. But those people are also wealthy enough that they're not going to be hurt by things like sanctions.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in like Iran, my Iranian friend couldn't get fucking insulin because of sanctions.
Yeah.
Really? Like, this is what's going to make people. This is what's going to make people like want America to liberate them. Like, oh yeah, I fucking almost died of diabetes because my government can't buy insulin. I sure hate them.
Yeah, you really showed us how to do it right by squeezing our resources away from us, you know.
It's literally never ever worked. Like, it's never made people overthrow their government. It just makes people resent the nation sanctioning them. But we keep doing this because, I don't know, the cruelty is the point or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's worked for them so far, you know, because they don't seem to give a shit about being cruel, right? You know, unfortunately, is there a country on this planet that is close to doing it right?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, really, because
The international trading thing really just fucks with everything, right? Because
well,
you can't.
I think you can do global trade and stuff, but only with actual socialism, because then the workers don't get their jobs outsourced places.
Right.
You can still, we need to trade things between countries because, like it or not, there are just resources that only exist in some countries.
Exactly.
And some,
yeah.
like, that's the whole thing. It's actually kind of funny because realistically, if a lot of Africa was allowed to be socialist, and I do say allowed because if they try, they get assassinated.
Yes.
There's quite a few of them that have been. But if they were actually allowed to do that, you would suddenly see that places like Ghana have a really robust chocolate market, because all of the chocolate in Belgium that Belgium is so famous for comes from the fucking Ivory Coast.
Of course.
They don't grow chocolate in Belgium.
Yeah.
But they're not allowed to make chocolate there because, or when you're not allowed to make a factory that manufactures cobalt or whatever, because you try to get a loan for that, right, from the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, both capitalist banks, and all of a sudden they go, no, you don't need to build a factory like that. There's already one in Japan, and they make most of the stuff, so you can't do that. You're gonna hurt their supplies or whatever, and so they have to just keep exporting their resources somewhere wealthier. And they never get to make any products of their own. And it's how you keep people poor. They would literally just leech off the third world perpetually.
Yeah, where a lot of the great resources are, right? Big coincidence, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have a lot of this shit that we have in North America because it's here.
Or England, you know what I mean? The UK, you know what I mean? A little fucking island in the north. What the fuck is growing there? You know, what do they run the goddamn planet somehow? It's just, it's ridiculous, right? But let's go out on a more positive note. Even though this episode will be dropping on Valentine's Day, which is, of course, a shrill capitalist invention. However, in the spirit of fun, in that you're an adult film person, do you have anything coming? Do you have a Valentine's Day drop happening, or is this it? Is this your Valentine's Day drop?
I do not have a Valentine's Day drop because I made one last year, and that gave me the permission to never do that shit again.
Well, then,
or at least I don't have to do it right away because I did it once. So if I ever want to do it again, then maybe I'll do it. But I already did it once, so I'm just gonna maybe I'll sell it at a discount so people can buy the Valentine's shit for.
That's a good
idea. I'll do a sale. I'll probably do a sale in my store or something.
Valentine's sale. And hey, for fans of Rayray Sugarbutt, I know you will flock to this episode and probably not check out any of my other episodes. I still appreciate you coming through to this episode. And for those of you who were maybe a little disappointed that you didn't get any brand new Rayray Sugarbutt content on Valentine's Day.
Well, I mean, this is the
Enjoy
first
the
time they'll
sale.
see this outfit.
And here we exactly. I am very happy to be able to give them some new Rayray Sugarbutt on Valentine's Day for the people who had checked out Ezza Trips Balls to see you. So thank to all them, and thanks to you as well. And you're welcome back on the show anytime. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. So let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find it's all not safe for work. So if you don't want to see, if you don't want to see some bits, then don't go to it. But you can find me on basically everywhere as Rayray. It's just Ray twice, no separation. Sugarbutt. On Twitter like that, no spaces, just Rayray Sugarbutt. And honestly, all my other stuff is linked on my Twitter profile there. So that's how you can find all the other things. OnlyFans for, you know, I'll break it down real quick so everyone knows it because it's kind of complicated. Many vids, full-length videos, plots, editing, narration. OnlyFans, the footage that gets used in those videos with no editing. So if you want to see just one scene without it jumping between two camera angles or whatever, that's where you go for that. There's like 300 videos on it. Go nuts.
Nice.
Subscribestar, picture sets. I'm really good at photos now. I got really good at taking pictures of myself. They look pretty good. And if the Twitter posts are anything to go by, people still like still images. A couple thousand of them like still images every day. So if you want to look at like 80 pictures in a themed set per month with a lot of cool shit in them, you can go there, and it's actually the cheapest one. It's always going to be $4. So
beautiful. Thank you very much. And if there's a Valentine's Day sale, everybody go check that out and support. And yeah, Darian and the family say hi. We love you very much and we miss you. So when all this is over, you're going to have to come by and we'll hang out.
I will. I should show this to you. I got a snapback that says balls on it for this. I wanted to wear it, but I couldn't find my headphones that worked. I had to wear this headset, so I can't really, but
that is a fantastic snapback. Thank you so much.
No
I appreciate
problem.
you. Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Welcome.
About to take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping back and not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.